Hello and welcome back to Alternate Ending, where we are still discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I am your host for the week, Brennan Klein, and with me is a coterie of your favorite voices. First of all, back after a long time away from the microphone, we have Andrew Milne. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing good, thanks, Brennan. Just wandered off into the woods for a while, but now returned, better, harder, faster, stronger, ready to talk movies with a renewed vigor and energy and poise.
Ooh, I simply can't wait. And I was trying to make a Daft Punk joke, but I was like, I don't want to call anyone on the podcast daft, so I just kind of had to throw that away. Another non-daft maybe punk that we have here with us is Caleb Wimble. Welcome back, Caleb. How are you?
I'm not gonna have to turn in my punk credentials. I don't think I've ever had any legitimate claim to the movement as much as I do like a lot of punk rock. But I'm good. It's a beautiful weekend here. Loving life. It's sunny and pleasant. Thanks for having me back.
Yes. Well, you're so welcome. And also, we have Brian Fowler with us to complete the quartet today. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing well. Survived the great heat wave of the past week, so
No, that is excellent. And yeah,
it's sunny and unpleasant.
great. Yeah, this is one of those podcasts where I had to turn the air conditioner off. So I will progressively melt as the podcast goes on, and my brain will too. So we'll see how that goes. We are gathered here today to discuss the cinematic output of one Spider-Man. But so that's going to be quite a mountain to climb. But before we do that, we're going to do our traditional movie roundtable. We're each going to talk about a movie we've seen recently. I think let's start with you, Andrew. What do you want to bring to the table today?
Okay, so this is one I've been looking forward to bringing for months. This was appointment viewing for me. This is actually a
Oh.
movie I traveled to see. This is a film that I actually stayed overnight in a hostel in Edinburgh in order to watch. So because it was a quarter to nine screening at an independent cinema, that was the one screening I was able to get into. But this is The Furious, the new Hong Kong action movie directed by Kenji Tanigaki. Release, I think we're probably coming up against the end of its release window by the time this podcast goes live, actually. I think it came out about the 12th of June in the States. We got it a couple of weeks late. I didn't see it until the 26th, but I was there day and date opening night because this has been on my radar now for years. Um, this was essentially the great white hope of like fight movie fans around the world for a long time.
Hmm.
Bringing together talent from all over sort of like Southeast Asia. As I mentioned, Kenji Tanigaki directing. He's a veteran of the sort of industry. He's one of Donnie Yen's guys, working with choreographer Kensuke Sonomura. And bringing together talent such as Yayan Ruhian and Joe Taslim from the Raid movies. We got Joe Iwanaga from the Baby Assassins films, and Gigi Yannon. They've got her over from the Thai action industry, and also Brian Lay. Oh God, how do we even talk about Brian Lay? We've there are characters in action movies that I would describe as moving like video game characters. If a video game character moved like Brian Lay, that character would get flagged in testing. Like it would be like, okay, like clearly something's gone wrong here. There's an integer overflow at some point here. This clearly needs to be brought back to source code. The plot is, do you even need to know? Like, there's human trafficking. Joe Taslim and Zhu Miao go and kick it until like all the human trafficking is gone. And in
So
the
a
process,
taken, one might say.
it's a taken. It's very much a taken. A kidnapped daughter is involved, but it basically is just a clothesline for some of the most insane set pieces that I've seen in a fight movie in years. And my understanding is that Tanigaki and Sonomura set out to make essentially their vision of the ultimate sort of martial arts movie, sort of bringing together their cumulative decades of expertise and combining a bunch of different disciplines into just this completely overhauling everything we know about martial arts choreography. Coming to this movie as a fight fan, you're going to have to bear with me here. The first thought I had was this must be how it felt to have been a physicist in 1905. Um, like for a while there, like at the tail end of the 19th century, we thought we had it all figured out. We thought that we knew how everything worked and how all these sort of things slotted together, and basically there's nothing new left to be done. And then Einstein published his theory of relativity, and it's like, oh shit, no, we've got to throw it all out. We're starting from first principles. We don't know anything. We've barely scratched the surface. That's how watching The Furious felt like to me in the moment. Saw it in a packed theater with bunch of other like mostly young men, like mostly sort of like young guys in their 20s, and some of the sounds that were coming from the audience where I haven't heard something like that in a theater in probably about 15 years since I first saw The Raid. It was a trip. Like it was an absolute just nirvana seeing this live. So I think there's a very good chance this ends up being my favorite movie of 2026. And if you have any love of fight movies whatsoever, this is like a run, don't walk sort of proposition. Like, this isn't wait for streaming. This is go and see it in the nearest screen available to you, like yesterday, if you haven't seen it already.
Wow. That is quite a sales pitch you have made. This is a movie that I had not heard of until it came out, and I saw very glowing reviews popping up on Letterboxd. But I love that kind of cinematic experience where you feel just creatively invigorated, like, oh, I haven't seen everything yet. Like, there's still more to experience. That's so exciting.
It is very much that sort of thing. There was one particular moment, I guess I'll just sort of spoil one beat of choreography just to sort of like for a flavor. There's a moment where Jia Miao, at the climax of one of the fight scenes, hits a guy in the head with a sledgehammer so hard that the head of the sledgehammer breaks off and the head flies towards the camera, like pirouetting through the air in slow motion. And the oh we got from the audience in that moment. It gives me life. I felt invigorated.
Sounds like they should have shot this one in 3D.
I honestly, yes. I would have liked to have seen like a 3D conversion of this.
Hell yeah. And a movie that I believe has been 3D converted is the one that you're bringing to the table, Caleb. Is that, I don't recall if that's even true, but tell us about your movie.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it certainly would have been pushed as 3D like 5-10 years ago, and I think Toy Story 4 was, but I'm bringing Toy Story 5. Probably nobody needs an introduction to what Toy Story is at this point. They're still making Toy Story. There's more of it coming. And it turns out, despite not being particularly excited for this movie at all, I wasn't even planning on seeing it in theaters until a bunch of my siblings and their kids encouraged me to go and see it, that it was worth the way out. I'm glad I did, because I really enjoyed this one. I was continuously surprised and delighted by how sweet I found it, how maybe I shouldn't have been surprised by how sad at many times, because that's been a prevailing feature of some of the better Toy Story movies, that these are very often movies about coming to terms with changing seasons of life and with grief for the past and hope for the future and embracing of today. This one is very much even more than the last one or the one before it. This is about the toys grappling with middle-aged and being at a major crossroads in their lives, the distance they feel from their kids, and from the changing up-and-coming generations, and of course from the effects of technology on what it's done to our brains and to our social lives. Gets quite a bit of time, as you probably know from the trailers if you've seen with the new iPad in this one. I thought it was, even more than the other Toy Story movies, this was one that really takes seriously the trials and tribulations of childhood and what it's like to be a small kid going through some things, and you know, being an 8 or 9 year old who feels friendless and alone and has trouble making connections. And if you were a fan of Inside Out for that reason, this one is even less of a punch puller compared to that. And I think a little bit, like, meaner's not the word I'm looking for, but it's very frank about what it's like to be socially isolated or bullied, the general feeling of unbelonging. And despite all that, it's extremely funny. I have not laughed this hard at a Toy Story movie since Toy Story 2. I thought it had a lot of great gags. The ongoing spectacle with the many buzzes who are dumped out of a crashed supply ship crate from a boat or a plane, and their journeys to the mainland. I know some people have found that annoying and a little too much leaning on some of the humor of Toy Story 1 and 2. I thought this was like a really fun way of escalating and reviving what was good about those jokes and taking it in new places. And I was cracking up. My theater was cracking up at most of that. There turns where it pretends to be a horror movie for brief instants that I thought were especially hilarious. And yeah, I was moved by this movie. I was into it. It's not. I don't think it's not like a new, fresh, timeless classic or anything. Obviously, as Toy Story 5, but I think it's up there. It's probably not as good as 2 or even 3, but I don't think it really has to be. They're going to keep making these movies to make money one way or another. So I'm pleasantly surprised that they can still be good and sweet and enjoyable and yeah, something that the current generations can enjoy, and that isn't just, in my mind, cheap slop for the kiddies. This is something that this is made by people who care, and it's a movie that cares about its themes in a real way.
Wow, and another good sales pitch. This is a movie that I really didn't or don't want to see, but I do think that frankness in a children's movie is something that I really prize. Like, I think Babe is such a good movie because it doesn't shy away from the things that are really dark about being on a farm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like when movies get like that, especially in the modern age where they're kind of more scared to do that. So that sounds nice.
So I need to sort of hold my hands up here. I actually haven't seen Toy Story 4 yet. So do I need to catch up with 4 before catching 5?
There's no need whatsoever. I mean, it connects, like, there's some new characters from 4 who get, all the introductions here that you would need. I also liked 4 better than most people, but I do think it is very much lesser and a Toy Story that does not answer the charges of why is it necessary to make this. It's just, more of the same kind of thing. It's pleasantly enjoyable, though. It's worth throwing on streaming, but 5 is a definite improvement, I'd say, across the board, and doesn't require you have seen the last one. Just know that Woody is not really a main cast member. He and Bo Peep have gone off to have adventures on their own, and they just kind of pop into this one from time to time. But that's, you'll be fine in having seen it, unless you're really invested in the Andy arc. And oh wait, no, sorry, that was all completely wrapped up in 3. Yeah, 4 is mostly just Sporky.
Yeah.
So the one thing I have heard about 5 is that there's it sort of revisits the runner about Buzz like wanting to be able to fly. In a way that some people seem to find really satisfying and some people apparently less so. So I don't know if that's sort of a point of controversy.
I think that's just a good joke in this one. There's not like, he's not longing to fly or anything throughout the plot. It's a single beat for a scene that plays into it in more of just like a delightful, humorous way, not a character thing. Buzz's main thing in this is trying to propose to Jessie the entire movie, and have a lot of the funniest scenes in this movie are Bonnie, the child in this one, play acting weddings with her toys that get increasingly baroque and like soap operatic after starting out as a very sweet wedding, and bridesmaids getting murdered and secret past lovers showing up, that sort of thing. And Buzz is very much moved by it, despite his anxieties, to try and propose to Jessie. So that's most of his arc in this one.
Okay, nice.
I feel like I would have been friends with Bonnie. But yes, speaking of complicated love, the movie I'm bringing to the table is called Carolina Caroline. It just dropped on VOD. It got a pretty limited release here in the States. It's the newest feature from director Adam Carter Remeyer. He did a movie in 2020 called Dinner in America that is this spectacular punk rock love story set in the Midwest. It's really, really good. It's really kind of genre defying, and it's a movie that it's a bit abrasive, certainly in its first 15 minutes, but I don't think there's anyone I wouldn't recommend it to. Like, I recommended it to my parents and they loved it. I recommended it to my more hardcore punk queer friends and they loved it. Like, everybody finds something in that movie. So I'm just chasing this director's stuff. His next movie was this kind of generic but really solidly built coming of age movie called Snack Shack that came out 3 years ago. And now he's got Carolina Caroline. Samara Weaving stars as a gas station attendant who falls for this kind of slick con artist played by Kyle Gallner. And they kind of Bonnie and Clyde their way around the South. Personally, this movie, I didn't click with it as much as I did with Snack Shack and definitely with Dinner in America. I think it kind of transforms into a pretty generic, kind of boring, like I'm robbing banks and I'm in over my head kind of story. And I didn't feel like it turned into the thing that it was promising to be. But Samara Weaving and Kyle Gallner are both spectacular in this movie. They both give really soulful, like sexy, charismatic performances. So I never felt like I was missing something. It was just not quite the movie I wanted it to be. And there's also a very, very kind of bravura appearance from Kira Sedgwick. She's really, really good in this movie too. So I think it's worth it for the acting if you can stomach a little bit of generic crime movie vibes.
Yeah, the trailers were really leaning into the sex angle, like really playing it up as this is going to be like the one of these passionate criminal romances that we haven't really gotten too many of in recent history, and that used to be a box office thing of their own.
Yeah, and it's not like, a shockingly erotic film. It's just like they have sex in it, which is shocking for 2026. But they are just like, it's Samara Weaving and Kyle Gallner. Like if you watch movies with them, you know what they got, and what they got is great. But anyway, yeah, Caroline, I'm mixed on it. Definitely check out Dinner in America if you love that. Caroline, that's there too.
Yeah, like you're not selling it to me, because I do quite like the sort of like Bonnie and Clyde crime spree. When like that's just a template that I think a lot of it like boils down to location for me. Like if they've got a good locale to roam around. So where did you say this was set again?
It's got a good location. Kind of it's set around the American South. I believe it was all shot in Kentucky, but it's a nice. Okay. It has a very good sense of place. In terms of what it's putting on screen. So I think you would probably like it quite a bit.
Yeah, that tends to be what I'm looking for from one of these.
Yeah, and it's one of those movies where the extras or the extremely like the one-line supporting players, you're like, did they find you on the street in Kentucky and just put you in the movie? But yes, Brian, you have a movie you want to bring to the table as well. What is it?
In a shocking development, I went on the Thursday preview screening to see Supergirl. Everyone be shocked, I know.
I'm doing the Edvard Munch face.
I talked about what the movie was based on quite a bit on our June preview episode. But it is essentially a very simplified version of the Woman of Tomorrow comic. And I can sum up the plot in a single sentence. In tonight's production of True Grit in Outer Space, the role of Rooster Cogburn will be played by Supergirl. Also, to tie into Andrew here, it's also about fighting sex trafficking.
Oh, yes.
Although it never quite gets around to saying the words sex trafficking, just strongly implies it about half a dozen times.
Oh, is it even implied? That felt pretty explicit to me. I don't know what else you could draw from.
Well, like they never strongly implied. They never say the words. They never say rape. They never say sex trafficking.
They just say we're selling child brides. Right?
I mean, yeah, like I remember like
I think they called them the brides at one point, which reminded me of Fury Road. And I know they said it's how they propagate their all male race. Or something like that.
Yeah, gosh, that detail.
Yeah. Like I remember, like the women in cages showed up in the climax, and it's like, oh yeah, that is what we were doing here.
Well, it's like that's like the third motivation of the heroes is breaking up the sex trafficking ring.
Right, it's a bonus.
It comes after revenge and saving dog. But if I have a big complaint about the movie, it's that the comic book does a lot of weird, fascinating, strange comic book things. And the movie's mostly outside of a few visual gags. Like, let's get rid of all of that stuff and let's just have the plot here. Okay. We don't need the fight with the cosmic dragon.
I heard they're in the...
Which is too bad because it's one of the...
Yeah, you were telling us in the comic there was like a cosmic phoenix scene and like a Pegasus scene, and like none of that was in the movie, right? I didn't blink and miss it.
Yeah, there's weird there's weird dinosaur creatures on one of the planets in the comic. So all of the weirder, fascinating stuff is cut in favor of a much more straightforward, by the standards of comic book superhero movies, blessedly short movie. It's well under 2 hours,
That is lovely.
which is a miracle for this genre. It has completely bombed at the box office. It is going to lose Warner Brothers tens of millions of dollars, if not more. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was solid. I enjoyed it. I I would say if you like superhero movies, it's worth seeing, and if you don't like superhero movies, it's probably not. I know a couple of you guys also saw it, so
Yeah, I caught it this afternoon. I walked out of Supergirl 3 hours ago. So so it's very fresh in my memory. I regret to say, like, I really didn't like it at all, to be honest, which is a shame because I actually thought the trailers looked enticing. I actually was on board with James Gunn's Superman last year. That's probably the most superhero movie has endeared itself to me in a long time. But I just
Same, yeah.
thought this, yeah, I just thought this was it was very brown, it was very sludgy to look at, and
Hmm.
I just thought the plot felt very shapeless, and there wasn't much of a sense of tone or stakes, or it just felt very undercooked to me. So
And
regrettably, because I wanted to like it.
they keep repeating basically like the entire movie is a scene of them showing up to a situation with the space pirates, Supergirl getting depowered in some increasingly implausible way, or some way that requires you to assume that her speed and reflexes only function when the plot requires them to. And then she gets beat up really badly, and then she finds a way to repower herself, and then she starts kicking ass, but the villains escape, and they follow them to the next area, and then wash, rinse, repeat. She gets depowered again, and it's for that reason, like maybe that's something that plays out better in a comic arc where you have like what 17, 18 volumes or something. I think where, of course, with a Kryptonian, you're going to have to find either if you're ways to depower them, or introduce a villain who's clever or compelling enough that they have ways like Lex Luthor to outsmart or outtech or whatever around the hero's powers. But this villain, I think this is one of the movie's core problems. He shows up over and over again, and I think he's maybe the least compelling presence in the entire film. Just kind of annoying extra
very
from
little personality.
Yeah, he's like an extra from Mad Max 2. Like he'd be one of Humongous's minions, essentially. This guy with the beads on his
Yes.
head,
Is this
and just shows up to
Krem?
leer and stick his tongue out.
Yeah, I will say this though.
It definitely has a lot.
Oh, sorry, Brian.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Millie Alcock innocent.
She's
I think
great.
She's really
She's
good in
great.
the part.
Yeah,
She's fantastic in the movie. I also think Jason Momoa is really, really good as Lobo, but boy, is it obvious they took a story that Lobo isn't in,
yeah,
and like, let's shove Lobo in here somewhere.
yeah.
It's in space, that counts.
He just sort of.
'Cause I think his performance is good. There is no reason for Lobo to be in this movie.
Yeah, you could cut him completely and nothing would
Introduce him
change.
for some other movie.
But he is fun. He is very
Yeah.
fun.
And it is definitely the color palette is frustrating that they go to like 5 different planets and there are 5 different shades of brown.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't that the
Which
big thing with Superman? It was like, oh, colors are back in
Yes.
superhero movies.
It was.
Yes. This, other than the alien designs, this felt very little James Gunn influence. on
That and
it.
the needle drops.
It did not. Yeah, which there is a needle drop in this movie that is getting a lot of hatred.
I read that they cycled through something like 40 or 50 songs until finding one that they had to use there at the very last minute in production.
That
Ooh.
that weird cover of who is the middle guy?
Oh,
I don't
Jimmy
know
Eat
what
World,
the
isn't
original
it?
song is by now.
Yes, yeah.
Jimmy Eat World, yeah. Yeah, it is a weird, slow, like folk pop cover of the middle.
Oh, is it
That-
the? Oh, I'm looking.
I don't
this
think
up.
I would dislike it as a song necessarily, but it is a very strange choice for the big climax of the movie. And it is getting some significant hate, at least on my letterbox feed.
And the color palette is a little baffling because, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I looked at some panels of the comic and it looks like it's exploding with color. Like it looked like one of the more colorful things I've seen since like Jack Kirby's run of his like, pre-Star Wars space opera
There's
era.
one of the things about the comic is the different planets look different. So some stuff is like the Phoenix Cosmic Dragon stuff is nothing but colors, almost impressionistic in the artwork.
Yeah, like psychedelic even.
And yeah, it has like the Cell Buscema or Mobius type
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
influence in the artwork for any of you comic nerds who know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, well, I'm a comic nerd, sorry.
I don't consider myself a comic nerd, but my favorite comic is the Incal. So, like, Mobius is
Yeah.
very much on my radar. So, yeah, that is a draw. Actually, that's this has, if nothing else, kind of motivated me to give Women of Tomorrow a look.
Same. Yeah.
It's a great comic. It is extremely well worth reading. Um Also, one thing I did like that's just a tiny little touch. They renamed the last planet in the comic Bilkis after the artist of the comic,
That's nice.
Okay.
who, as Brennan mentioned the last time I was on, he briefly met.
I did. We talked about Brazilian frosted flakes and how they're different in America. But yeah, no, I just we're moving along, but I did want to say about the needle drop thing not feeling very James Gunny. I feel like he himself is kind of losing it too. Like I thought the dog days are over. Like final track of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 or Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was just, it hit me like a brick. I was like, what the fuck are you doing with this? And then the 5 years time sequence in Superman, I thought was just such a bad choice for a song. I just don't know if the Gun soundtrack thing is even there anymore. He's out of songs.
Maybe he just needs to stick to the 70s and
Yeah.
not try doing anything newer in his music choices.
It is funny for a moment there how like Dad Rock was basically the signifier of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think Honest Trailers made a gag about that at one point.
And it
Because you had AC/DC always playing for Iron Man
Yeah.
too, plus all the stuff in the first two Guardians movies.
which
Oh,
and
let's
I
not forget
love
Thor
those
Ragnarok.
soundtracks. Mm-hmm.
Oh
Right.
yeah, I still cannot believe they have done 4 Thor movies and haven't paid Kiss to put God of Thunder in any of them.
Yeah. But anyway,
That's a gimme.
while we're on this
Yeah, we're way off topic here,
Yes,
but
while we're on the subject of comic book movies, we are here today to talk about the cinematic oeuvre of Spider-Man. We have Spider-Man Brand New Day coming our way later this month. I think it's the final weekend of July. So we figured it was a good time to kind of just step back and take a look. Obviously, the comics will come up a little bit, Brian. That's fine. But we're really gonna try to focus on the movies. But obviously, there's TV shows too, and blah blah blah. We'll try to do an overview of everything. But there's only so much we can do. We're only human.
Unlike Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, he's got his foibles. He's
sure
human
does.
in a strong
Actually,
way.
yeah, probably one of the more human of the big Marvel heroes.
Yeah.
that's kind of the core appeal of Spider-Man
100%.
originally.
Yeah.
Was he was a hero who had problems like regular
Yep.
people.
Yeah.
If we go way back to 1962, which that's the very quick comic history lesson, is in August of 1962 in a Amazing Fantasy 15 by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, Spider-Man first appeared. Fun fact, that is the only issue of that series named Amazing Fantasy.
Oh, that's weird.
It had like 3 or 4 different names, but that's the last issue of its original run. But the 2 or 3 issues before it were the very misleading title Amazing Adult Fantasy.
Oh.
Not what that makes you think, though. They were just
Yeah.
comic books for, I guess, in theory, for older readers.
Yeah. It
but-
just sounds like
They were
a
not
phone
being,
number on a
stacked.
classifieds page.
They were not being stocked on the top shelf.
Yeah, no, and they weren't like hidden behind plastic or anything. But there is an early Spider-Man television film from I think 1977 that aired on CBS
Yes.
and did get theatrical distribution elsewhere in the world.
Which I find hard to
it was a-
believe, having seen
Oh, yeah.
a substantial
And it
chunk
was
of
a-
this.
It was a pilot for a TV show that has been almost completely memory
Oh
hole.
yeah, and I
Like nobody talks about
For
the
good reason.
77 Spider-Man show. Nope. It is not, to the best of I could find, available on any like legal streaming methods.
watched it today.
I have not seen the movie. You guys did one. I have not seen it. I was like, oh, I should have tracked that down and didn't.
Oh yeah.
So I will cede the floor to people who have seen this apparent disaster.
Okay, so
I've heard nothing good.
I needed
about
to
it.
get out in front of this because like it is sort of like the Superman and the Mole Man of Spider-Man's legacy. But yeah, it's cut very much from the same cloth as stuff like the two Captain America movies they made with Reb Brown around the same time, with the complete with the very funky sort of jazz-driven score. And yeah, it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect from this sort of era. It's terrible. It's mostly just people sort of talking in boardrooms or on suburban streets, with occasional like cheaply dressed extras. The main action sequence is Spider-Man getting into a fist fight with three kendo practitioners, where he spends most of the time running away, and the whole thing.
He does that a lot.
So, oh yeah, he does a lot of that. And the whole thing is him fighting against this new age cult that's like secretly a brainwashing operation that's mind controlling people in order to rob banks. It's very specious and doesn't feel very super heroic or comic booky at all.
Yeah, well, this is that time. Oh yeah, Ryan.
I was just saying that's kind of a thing with the '70s comic book TV shows that existed, because like the Incredible Hulk TV show, which is actually quite good for what it is, very much went out of its way to not feel like the comic books at all. And the Wonder Woman TV show doesn't really feel much like a comic book from that era. I don't know. It's like they wanted to adapt comic book superheroes, but they wanted to be as far away from Batman 66 as possible. Because, it was the 70s and it was, gritty now and not psychedelic, I guess. But like I said, I've not seen the Spider-Man, but from what I hear, it's in that same vein, but worse.
Yeah, I was doing research about the Spider-Man movies to prep for this, and I saw that was when I discovered that this existed for the first time. I am interested in that Friedrich von Trapp from The Sound of Music is playing Spider-Man in this era. But yeah, I was not sufficiently encouraged to check it out. Yeah, because there's that. It also looks like there are two other like. It's that thing where they shove two episodes of the show together and then they play it in theaters internationally. So there's one in 78 and one in 81, and then there's like a Japanese movie from 1978 also.
Yes,
Does anyone know about this?
There's a Japanese TV series,
which is the thing.
It's like in the vein of almost like Power Rangers or
the Super Sentai shows. It invented that.
Yeah.
This is the first one.
The one where Spider-Man has the...
Does it predate Kamen Rider?
It predates Kamen Rider, if I'm not completely mistaken, because I did not realize or at the very least, I should double check that, but I know it invented the Megazord compilation, like the trope of Super Sentai.
Yeah, having the
mecha.
Yeah,
because it is a mecha show, and it is like he gets what, like the emblem or something that transforms.
He is the emissary from hell.
Oh god, I was going to bring that up.
He is the emissary from hell. Spider-Man.
That's his catchphrase.
He's little
Spider-Man, the emissary from hell.
Yeah, he's
It's a.
Who's the Marvel character who is not Hellraiser, who is from Hell, who rides
Ghost Rider,
and Ghost Rider. Yes, he's Ghost Rider, basically.
Yeah.
I was wrong about Kamen Rider, by the way. That was first, but this is the one that invented the mecha Super Sentai onto there. But this is so much more delightful than the American show. Like it's weird, it's dark, it's funny.
Yeah, I've seen a couple episodes of this. It is very much that Japan be weird trope that people like to bring up, but in a fun way. Yeah. And it's a long side story to get too deep into, but Stan Lee actually worked with, is it Toei? That's the company,
Toei,
right?
Yeah, Toei.
For a few years, trying to bring Super Sentai to America years before Saban actually did. But like I said, it's a long story to get into with that one, and it has nothing to do with Spider-Man, but there was some synergy between Toei and Marvel, like in the late 70s into the 80s, that never quite paid off as much as they wanted it to. But anyway, I want to move on because I want to ask Brennan a question.
Okay.
You said you did some research.
Yes.
Did you come across a fact of who was at one point attached to co-write and direct a Spider-Man movie that blew your mind?
Yes. Oh, can I
please, because I'm gonna have to hear your reaction.
Yeah,
to this.
so I was shocked to learn this. There was a Spider-Man movie in development hell basically throughout the entire 1980s. Golan and Globus of Canon Films picked up the rights, and they had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre auteur Toby Hooper attached. And that did blow my mind. I was thinking Toby Hooper was really in with Canon at the time. He made Invaders from Mars and Texas Chainsaw 2 for them. But when he dropped out, they replaced him with Joe Zito, who did The Prowler and Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. So I was like, oh, they're really looking for a horror director. And I figured, we're living in the period where Wes Craven has just made Swamp Thing. I think people are treating comic books as very much an exploitation kind of throwaway genre. But all of that it did blow my mind. But you knew about this, Brian?
Yes, and I knew it would be something that you probably were not previously aware of, because it's such a weird non sequitur of Toby Hooper, Spider-Man. Although apparently the script he worked on involved Spider-Man being an actual human spider.
Yeah, it sounded more like The Fly than a Spider-Man.
It did.
I think there's something to that.
And then things get really
looking
wonky.
ahead to when that actually happens in the Spider-Man comics and TV shows.
Yes.
Yeah. So, if you look at
things get very wonky after that. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because there is sort of a thread of horror in a lot of those sort of first wave of comic book adaptations. You look at sort of the early scenes in the first X-Men, where a lot of that is sort of focusing on the sort of trauma and the alienation involved in sort of it is almost body horror at points with the stuff involving Rogue and Wolverine sort of coming into their powers. I think there's a lot of that in Spider-Man potentially. You could follow that thread if you wanted to pull it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so things get really wonky. As Brennan said, the Spider-Man movie basically existed in development hell from about 1982 until about the turn of the century, with ownership bouncing between Canon Films, which went bankrupt, MGM, 21st Century Films, Columbia Pictures, and at one point there were lawsuits where there was accusations, at least, that Marvel had sold the rights to multiple different entities that overlapped.
Well, I feel like this is a consistent thing with Spider-Man, is that the Spider-Man rights always exist in this very confusing legal limbo.
Yeah, through to this very
Well,
day.
They eventually get settled in one of my favorite weird film facts ever. But before I get that, I just want to say that for a couple of years, James Cameron was attached to direct Spider-Man after he finished T2. He was going to do T2, then do a Spider-Man movie, which got another lawsuit because Fox said, no, he's contractually obligated to work for us. But then they finally get the various rights sorted out. Companies buy each other, companies go out of business. And it ends up that just Columbia Pictures, which by that point has been absorbed by Sony, and MGM have competing Spider-Man rights. And they resolve this issue by Sony trading the rights to Casino Royale to MGM in exchange for full clearance on Spider-Man. Because they had still had Casino Royale from way back on the episode of Climax. It was the first ever film James Bond that led to the spoof Casino Royale movie. And MGM had desperately wanted Casino Royale for decades because it was the only good Bond novel left to adapt. And so it's literally a straight up trade of Spider-Man for Bond.
That trade worked out great for all of us.
I was going to say, it was a real win-win.
It is a home run trade for both companies, both franchises. And to Brennan's point earlier about horror directors, we don't stray away from that. Because although by that point Sam Raimi had done a lot of non-horror stuff as well, but this is the man who cut his teeth on The Evil Dead.
Yeah.
And he is finally the director who actually filmed something.
Yeah,
Although
and-
he
and-
had like his bona fides figured out before then, because he made Darkman, which was essentially like his own sort of
Yeah.
like homebrew superhero. So he kind of like
Mhm.
he demonstrated he knew what he was doing in this genre.
That is true, but it's also
Yes,
this is
Sam Raimi is a very versatile director. He is proving he can work in most genres pretty
Mhm.
well.
yeah, that is very true. But this is definitely the Evil Dead Sam Raimi who's showing up to set for Spider-Man, and not the for the love of the game Sam Raimi.
No,
But
nor
yeah,
indeed
so
the
2002 Spider-Man.
Simple Plan Sam Raimi. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
No, it's okay. Yeah, Simple
good
Plan,
movie,
The
yeah.
Gift. He did a lot of stuff. The Quick and the Dead. But yeah, so I imagine the 2002 Spider-Man and its two sequels are probably pretty big moments in our lives. We were all alive at this time. These were the first Spider-Man movies that we probably saw. Let's start with you, Caleb. What's your experience with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy?
Well, yes, it was the first Spider-Man film that I saw. I'd seen some of the TV show stuff, and I grew up loving the Fox cartoon from the '90s. Very, very cheaply made, but pretty endearing take on Spider-Man that went through a lot of his major arcs. So that was a big part of my childhood. I was waiting for that 6 p.m. slot for that to come on in syndication where I lived. And yeah, Sam Raimi's one. This was one that we were guaranteed to go to theaters for. My family only went to the movies once or twice a year. We had to drive up to Bangkok, which was very far away, and there was no question of this one. My parents wanted to see it as much as we did, and so all went as a family, made the annual trek, and were completely delighted. I mean, from the opening credits of this one, which just they sort of like, as far as I know, invent the whole flinging through DNA in three-dimensional letters arranging, and the Danny Elfman score of this, I still think one of the great all-time superhero scores. It is as instantly memorable and appropriately Spider-Man-y and Spider-like and slightly weird in that Sam Raimi way. I think it's as appropriate to Spider-Man as the John Williams Superman score is to him. It feels completely iconic. I think the one, and yeah, just this movie top to bottom, fantastic time, setting up the trend of the villains really being the definingly great feature of the best superhero films most often, with Willem Dafoe just hamming it up as the Green Goblin. Even then, I want to say I did not love the costume design of. I don't think
Same.
anybody was really happy with how that turns out.
Yeah.
Good thing Willem Dafoe has the face he does, so he can take off
that's it.
the helmet.
Yeah, the inexpressive Green Goblin mask is kind of a liability, which is like it doesn't put as much of a damper as it could on what is such a like fun, like hammy performance. Like you look at
Yeah.
the Green Goblin design in the comics, and it's like there. Yeah, I don't think there was a good way to translate that to film. Probably like what we got was probably the
you've
least.
seen the screen tests, right? The of the comic version of it that they did for the film with the
I
mask.
don't think I have actually. No, this is
Yeah,
new
they
to
made
me.
an animatronic version of that mask, the skin tight, like goblin-esque one, and it looks great in the footage. But I think it was just good. That maybe the mechanics were too clunky or something. Maybe Brennan or Brian knows why that was dropped in favor of the helmet late in production because they screen tested it.
Yeah, if I knew at some point, I have forgotten. But yeah, I do remember now you mentioned that I have seen that footage, but it's been a long time. But you're absolutely right. Defoe is having a magnificent time and bringing just enough real pathos to the kind of split personality thing that it doesn't read as just a cartoon, or comic booky superhero in the way people, or supervillain in the way people
Yeah.
think of them. He brings just enough depth without drowning the character in it, while just going so far over the top. And Tobey Maguire, I like his Peter Parker a lot. And I think a lot of my problems with his Spider-Man is more script-based than performance-based. But my biggest complaint about all three of the Raimi movies as a whole is Spider-Man in the comics and that the character at its core, he's a mediocre stand-up comedian while fighting criminals.
Oh yeah.
And that's just not in the Sam Raimi movies at
It's
all.
in a little bit, like
It's-
starting with the worst line in the movie in the wrestling
You're the one
match.
who's out, Dobby.
Oh,
Out of your
God.
mind.
Yeah, or yeah, the nice outfit did your husband make it for you or
yeah.
whatever?
That
Yeah.
hurt even in 200002.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
like,
that-
oh,
that stood out.
come on, come
Yeah,
on,
that's
Spidey.
however, I'm glad you brought that up because I would like to just mention, speaking of people having a magnificent
Yes.
time in that movie, Macho Man Randy Savage
yeah.
showed up to that movie, and it looks like he had the time of his life.
Bonesaw is so good. It's what a great scene.
Is
Bonesaw
ready. Right.
This is a joyful film. I think, like as like much pain and suffering as in it, and setting the continuing trend of Peter being constantly abused and tortured by his foes. Like, this is a movie that understands how exciting superpowers are and the thrill of that and the life-changing element. Like when Tobey Maguire gets his powers and does like the roof launching and all that. Like, it is so exciting, and the scenes in school with the filmed nearly in real time a scene of him like reflexively catching all of Mary Jane's drop tray.
My understanding is that
as
was
it all
not
falls.
simulated. Apparently, they just had to
was
do like
not?
100 takes of it, but he actually caught all that stuff.
You
which is
did.
wild.
It's so good.
No, I'm with you, Caleb.
Yeah.
It's such a fun, like, I think what really sells it to me is like it's the Raiminess of it all. Like, there's always just this element, like it's just on the verge of grotesquerie. Like, there's this sort
Yes.
of there's this element where it feels like it's just approaching sort of something genuinely edgy and chaotic without straying necessarily out of this sort of romantic sort of fun and like adventurous
Yeah.
sort of mode.
And
Yeah, the movie never forgets that Spider-Man is a fun character and that you're supposed to enjoy yourself when you go see a Spider-Man movie, not be depressed and miserable, even when Peter is depressed and miserable. And the Sam Raimi touches are, in all three of them, there's little moments where it's like, oh yeah, that is the guy who
Yeah.
made the Evil Dead. Look at that camera
Yeah,
move.
the camera
And-
moves.
Especially,
Just incidental sort of lines from sort of secondary or minor characters. Everyone's like feels very very vivid. Like, all the personalities feel very large. We haven't even touched on J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, one of the
Oh,
all-time
God.
great supporting characters in.
perfect
Yeah.
casting. Just perfect
Yes.
casting.
but yeah, and
And
with
I'm
with
I was gonna jump ahead for a second, so go ahead.
yeah, I actually need to jump back because I've been trying to jump in. But yeah, basically, no
Sorry.
worries. I just want to roll it back really quick. I actually really like the Green Goblin helmet personally, but
okay.
I cannot separate the fact that I was in second grade when I saw Spider-Man from the idea of Spider-Man as a filmic object. So I don't know how much of it is just like me being an impressionable child when I first saw it, but that thing freaked me the fuck out. In that scene where he shows up at like the parade and uses the pumpkin
yeah.
bombs to dissolve people, that's frightening
scary.
Sam Raimi stuff. And I think that goes with what you're saying. Like, he has such a good capacity to balance tones. That's something that he does a lot in The Evil Dead. It's frightening. It's funny. It's gross. It's all of these things at once. And I do think he brings that to life in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I will say, I think the mask is a good design. It's creepy without being, completely over the line into grotesque. I actually probably have more problem with the armor.
Yeah.
Because he really,
Maybe.
really looks like he came from,
The jumpsuit.
as we were talking about earlier, a Super Sentai show.
It feels like a design that would work really
But
well
I
in a
wanted to
comic
jump ahead
panel.
just-
Is my thing.
And the glider still came out great. I mean, that
the
thing
glider
feels
looks
so
fantastic, yeah.
physical and nasty, and the way that the goblin dies from it when Peter does the flip in the graveyard. Like, speaking of that Sam Raimi production
is-
design,
That is straight out of a comic book, too. That death of, not that he stayed dead because it's a comic book, but the death of Green Goblin on his own glider is straight from 70s comic, maybe early 80s. I think late 70s. But when I was talking about Sam Raimi and the camera, I wanted to jump ahead to the second movie just because there's a scene that you could, if you cut that scene out of the movie and just showed it, it's straight up a horror film scene with when they try to remove the
Yes, in the
arms
Oh,
hospital.
from
yes.
Otto Octavius,
Yes.
and we
Oh.
see everything from the four cameras inside the arms, essentially. That sequence is so good.
That puppeteering on those
Honestly,
arms, like holy shit, like incredible
as
work.
much as I, yeah, as much as I like the first Spider-Man, I think Spider-Man 2 passed in almost every way.
Yeah, coat sign.
I'm not positive. I think Otto's a better villain, although Alfred Molina is great in it.
He's so good too.
Willem Dafoe, I think, is a little bit better than Molina, but not much. And I think pretty much everything else is an across-the-board improvement. Starters, the CGI, even just 2 years later, is so much better.
I think the first has a
And the
tighter
story,
tighter script, but the story of 2 definitely gets into some real pathos. It gets to explore a lot more of what's rich about the Spider-Man relationships and him and Peter and Mary Jane and everything.
Yeah, those 2 movies I think are still pretty high up on my list of favorite comic book
Great.
movies.
Spider-Man 2 is
Mm-hmm.
right near, like it's right up there with The Dark Knight for me in terms of like my favorite comic book adaptations. Certainly superhero movies. In that regard. A couple of things on the first 2 Spider-Man movies for me. For one, as a kid growing up in sort of small town Scotland, they were instrumental to my sort of conception of New York. Like they're so yeah, they're so it feels like such a coherent, like vibrant environment throughout both movies, like where you've just got, I mean, they sort of lean into that in the sort of post 9/11 of it all. And of course, like the first film was notoriously, it was rejigged in post-production in the wake of the attacks. But there is that sort of the guys on the bridge, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, and that sort of sense of like solidarity.
Yeah. Have you seen the scene they cut after 9/11? There was a scene that showed up in, like, it wasn't even a trailer, if I remember. It was like something that was used to sell Sony DVD players, like a sizzle reel of stuff from upcoming movies that you can only see at like Radio Shack or something like that. But there is a scene out there of Spider-Man using the 2 twin towers, building a web between them to catch a helicopter. There's no context to the scene. Don't know who was in the helicopter, what was going on.
So wait,
but that scene, I assume it's still out there on the internet somewhere.
Wasn't that featured on one of the posters or one of the trailers or something? I have a memory of it.
There's a
might be in one of the trailers. I know the clip is out there.
I don't know about this clip, but I do know there was a teaser poster of like a web between the Twin Towers that they pulled right quick in 01.
Yeah, it vanished into the memory hole real fast.
Yeah, along with Mariah Carey's Glitter.
For obvious reasons.
With Mariah Carey's what?
Glitter. The soundtrack to her movie Glitter came out on September 11th, and that's the only reason that terrible movie and album did not perform well. But yes, yeah, for me, you all are talking about like, oh, Spider-Man 2 this, and it's better than this and all that. I frankly don't have the ability to separate the Sam Raimi trilogy into discrete objects. It is all just one lump in my memory and in my mind. Obviously Spider-Man 3 is the worst of them. It's I will go to bat to defend.
It's aged well.
I don't agree. I watched them during COVID quarantine and I was like, ooh, it's very messy, but I am a defender of emo Spider-Man.
It's very funny.
Me too. I always liked that sequence. I liked that sequence in the theater. But no, I think it's aged well in large part because of how much more cookie cutter superhero movies have gotten in the 19 years, I think, since that came out.
Yeah.
It doesn't follow the same exact beats as every superhero movie for the last decade.
Okay.
Which I think has helped it age better than it came. And also, I've seen much worse Spider-Man movies now, so it doesn't seem as bad.
My thing, I'm kind of a little column A, little column B when it comes to Spider-Man 3. It's on the one hand, yeah, I mean, you've got moments like it turned out the Osborn family butler knew all along what happened to Norman, and just now, like, sort of felt compelled to mention it apropos of nothing in particular to Harry. So yeah, like the script is all over the place. I think there is something to be said for Sam Raimi. You know, he didn't originally want Venom in the final film, as far as I think that's the story, isn't it? Like he was wanting to save Venom for the fourth film.
Studio mandated.
And I think it's almost it's pretty clear that that would have been an improvement if they just kept things focused on Harry and conflict with Peter in that movie. And yeah, Sandman, like threw him in there, but like three villains. It feels like you can draw a straight line from Spider-Man 3 being this sort of early instance of superhero movie bloat. There's a line to be drawn from that to something like 2023's The Flash.
Yes,
like which is a much worse film, but like it's the same sort of like you know, the script being buried in studio notes and just getting out of control. That being said, there's still a lot to there's a lot to like in there. There's a lot of really good set pieces.
Yeah, truth be told, I don't know if Raimi wanted to use Venom at all, not even save the character. I think a lot of Raimi's Spider-Man fandom goes from when he was growing up in like the 70s. I think he only wanted to use the classic villains. I don't think he had any interest in Venom, period. Which, by the way, neither do I.
I was going to say the same thing.
That's curious.
Venom is one of my least favorite characters in all of Spider-Man. Even though I enjoyed the first two Venom movies because Tom Hardy's just being so over the top ridiculous, but
I like Venom in the comic books and the 90s Fox show. So I was excited for the prospect of a good Venom in a movie, which, you know, did not happen with Spider-Man 3 and debatably still has never happened.
Yeah. I
would not call any of the Venom movies good, even if I would call the first two enjoyable.
Yeah, I kind of came to Spider-Man in a bit of an unorthodox way, which is my dad, when he was a teenager in the 70s, he collected a bunch of the comics, and when I was growing up in the early aughts, we found like a cache of comics that he'd saved in my grandparents' attic. So, although I'd never actually watched the Fox show more than glancingly, I actually had read a bunch of the reprints of the classic sort of 60s and 70s issues of Spider-Man. And I was coming to the movies from a very similar place to Sam Raimi, I think. So, like, my appreciation of the character, I think, is very much in line with what you're talking about there. Venom never really entered my can at all. I've never read a Venom comic in my life.
Before we leave...
There are some good ones, but...
Before we leave the second, we have to shout out... I don't think we've mentioned that the train sequence might be my single favorite superhero film sequence ever.
So
I think it's like one of the most iconic things in any superhero movie. Just like the perfect version of that. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us from the first one.
Yeah.
What's the line the kids? He's just a kid. Is that what it is when they see his mess? Oh my!
Something like that.
Oh man. I mean, granted, he's like 30-year-old Tobey Maguire at that point, but still, it works.
And the handing him back his mask. Even the stuff leading up to it too is really classic superhero stuff. Of he's putting his own life on the line to save other people.
Yeah.
He's finding his limits, pushing himself further than he's gone, because it's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
It's a great sequence. It is a understood the assignment.
Yeah, I think I cannot think of a CGI-enabled action sequence in a live-action movie that has like made me like suck my breath through my teeth the way that the train sequence does. There's that shot where he's sticking to the outside of the train, and we get the oncoming train on the other track, has to bend over to dodge it. Like that just about makes me clench my sphincter every time I see that moment. It's incredible.
And of course, he's doing the Christ on the cross thing. It looks like the bones are going to pop out of his arms from the sheer strain of holding the webs together. It's just
wild.
It's all the things that superheroes are.
Absolutely, and it's also. I mean, there is that. I mean, thinking about that, there is that body horror thing that Sam Raimi's kind of doing with this Spider-Man, and obviously, like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is my Spider-Man. It was my first exposure to the concept of what a Spider-Man is and can be. So the fact that his web shooters are biological, like they're coming out of his wrist, that I just assumed was a Spider-Man thing, and I was shocked to learn that in many iterations of Spider-Man, he just has little devices that are
that's
attached to him, and I
that's the
thought
original
that was so
canon.
silly.
That is, which I think organic is an improvement. I'm gonna stake my claim there. I think organic is a better fit for the character. I prefer organic to artificial.
My reaction to the organic web shooters is many, 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 many curse words in a row. I fucking hate them so
Really?
fucking much. Peter Parker is a genius who invented his web shooters. God damn it!
He can invent other things. I just like
He's a genius who invented his web
I
shooters.
just don't understand.
Okay,
If Spider-Man invented his web shooters, I don't understand why we need a radioactive spider to bite him in the first place. It's like, oh, he can just sense things 5 seconds before they happen. Like, what skills does he have?
Yeah, it feels like
reflexes.
That's the proportion. That's the proportionate speed and strength of a spider.
That's fucking boring,
Is he strong?
Brian.
Listen, Bob, he's got radioactive blood.
Yeah, that kills Mary Jane in the comics, right? With his radioactive
Well,
cum.
in a very, very bad comic.
Yeah.
That is an alternate future timeline, and
Anyway, I think the biological shooters work really well, and I think they really work for the puberty metaphor that is going on, simmering in the background of that first
I
movie.
agree. Oh, speaking of the puberty, and another thing of these movies might have represented in early childhood. I don't know about you, Brennan, but when Toby does the transformation and wakes up and goes in front of the mirror, and he's suddenly jacked in that one, that was definitely one of those early. Oh, something's going on here. I feel strange ways about this this development.
Oh yeah, that's a big gay awakening moment for me too in the early 2000s. One of those ones that you kind of look back on your life and you're like, oh, my reaction to that as a kid was not what I thought it was at the time. I was just like, oh, this must be how everyone's reacting to it.
There are layers here. Things you reinterpret in later life.
Mm-hmm.
One more note on the first movie. It was the first movie I ever went to on opening night.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
For one thing, where I grew up, the movie theater in the next town over usually got movies about 2 months after they came out. It only played one movie at a time because it has one screen. But I had never driven over to the 25, 30 minutes to go to an opening night of a movie before Spider-Man. But of course, I'm also the elder millennial here on this podcast who was in college when Spider-Man opened.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I mean, I think it was worth you bestowing it that honor. I hope you would agree.
Yeah. I do. So then business gets interesting again with Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say
they go.
Sorry, yeah, you go.
Oh, go ahead. No, I'm gonna move on. So if you have something else to say about the Raimi trilogy,
I was gonna transition also because I was just gonna say if you love the mechanical web shooters, you must love the Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay. So, but there was for a long time a development on Spider-Man 4.
Mm-hmm.
Which was going to have the Vulture as the villain. And they abandoned it. And this is where those contracts and lawsuits come back into being really an interesting thing, because Sony has a deal with Marvel that gives them the rights to Spider-Man in perpetuity if they release a movie into theaters at least once every 5 years.
It's the Children of the Corn problem.
Yeah.
Exactly, or Hellraiser, or Halloween before that finally fell apart. But yes, so when they abandoned Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4, they had to move quick to get a Spider-Man movie into theaters. And if you have the Blu-ray or DVD of The Amazing Spider-Man, there's like a third of the movie that was left on the cutting room floor with this whole big, long subplot about his parents and if their deaths were an accident, or in the early marketing was see the true story of Spider-Man's parents that just isn't in the movie at all.
You could tell something's missing.
They cut. Oh yeah, quality. Actually, I don't think the first one's terrible. I don't think
it's not.
I'm not sure I wouldn't use the word terrible.
Well,
um,
maybe it has things in it that are good. Like, I mean, I'll go to bat for I think Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone deserved better Spider-Man movies. I think they are delivering everything that is asked of them. I think they have good screen chemistry. I even think Rhys Ifans, Kurt Connors, even though this movie is functionally remaking Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and doing exactly the same beats with Green Goblin and the Lizard here, turning the Lizard into Green Goblin, basically. Like there's still like there's that same like kind of surrogate father figure relationship going on there. I even think Josiah Bartlett might have made a pretty good Uncle Ben if the movie weren't so like trying to twist itself into knots to make a slightly different version of Uncle Ben dying and saying the famous lines contorted here.
It just feels like a cut.
The funniest thing
it feels like a cover version. Like it feels like a cover version where like some of the notes are just like off key, and because we've heard the original just so recently, it just can't help but hit the ear really uncomfortably. It's unpleasant.
But yeah, the funniest thing about this movie to me, though, is I can't remember if there's anything in the first Sam Raimi movie that mentions Kurt Connors.
I think so.
But we meet Kurt Connors. But we definitely meet Kurt Connors in Spider-Man 2. Mm-hmm. And in Spider-Man 3, we get a little tease about him becoming Lizard with the way he keeps the little bit of the symbiote. And you can just know that he's going to use that to make himself to try to regrow his arm and accidentally make himself into the Lizard.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 or 3 movies setting up slowly the Lizard in the background. I don't know when Sam Raimi intended to pull that trigger. We know it wasn't 4. But then they throw all that in the garbage, reboot, and hey, let's use that Lizard character.
Imagine if they had just...
Possibly because him and Vulture were
if they just allowed this to be a sequel,
the only 2 classics,
like without relitigating the first, like this could have done what Superman did last year to say, no, this is just a Superman story. We don't need to do all the origin again. You all know the drill. Let's continue. Let's do new things with it. If this movie had felt free to do that, then I think we might have had something more interesting here, something better, something that wasn't like trying to redo the you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us by having all the crane operators, or is that the second one? All the crane operators of New York. What a terrible scene.
Yeah, that's the first one.
It's I think
and doing a version of the origin story that's
lesser.
Just it just doesn't.
There's a variety of like it's all just the ingredients just sort of coming together wrong. I think, like you say, Andrew Garfield, I've liked him in other things, but his Peter Parker, what I like about Tobey Maguire specifically is like there's a bit of edge to Tobey Maguire where this guy, it actually does come across as a bit of an antisocial dweeb. Like you kind of buy, obviously no one deserves to be bullied in high school, but you kind of understand why this guy had a target on his back, why he is a little bit off-putting. And I think allowing him to have that edge to the character, and the things that make him a little bit asocial and a little bit off-putting and weird, even before he gets his powers, is animating and driving a lot of the pathos and the comedy that character gets. Andrew Garfield, I just don't buy him as somebody who has a target on his back, and some of the plot beats as written kind of make him just actually kind of genuinely an asshole. Like he's like the way he has to con his way into this work placement to get access to the lab, which costs somebody else the internship.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's just details like that it just feels tone deaf, and that sort of it's subtle, but it's pervasive throughout the whole film, and it just, I don't know, it just sets my teeth on edge. A lot of the writing choices in this movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. So, I think Andrew Garfield is a very good actor who was given a very bad script. But to me, Spider-Man as a character, mostly comics, but is somebody that everybody finds annoying.
Yes.
But is still a good guy. Like if you read like Avengers comics, Logan half the time would like to eviscerate him with his claws, but also knows he can trust him with anything.
Yeah, he's pure of heart.
Andrew Garfield, just as Andrew just said, comes across more or less as an asshole.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think
even
he
more in the
strikes
second.
that.
Also,
I think he strikes that balance better as Jonathan Larson in Tick Tick Boom, where you're like, this guy is fucking annoying, but I can see why he'd be charismatic enough to get people to like believe in Rent, basically.
he also does the weebish loser significantly better in The Social Network.
Yeah. Okay, I guess,
So, like I said, I think it's mostly the script and not him.
Which,
But here's a weird random fact about this movie. If designs had been finalized earlier, there was going to be a very small bit of MCU crossover in the first The Amazing
Really?
Spider-Man. They were going to include the Avengers Tower in the background of New York in The Amazing Spider-Man, and the Oscorp building in the background of a shot in The Avengers. How weird would that have been a few years later?
yeah,
When Sony and Marvel came to a much bigger deal.
ominous
Yeah,
signs of something.
Lord, yeah.
would we have been stuck with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man? I don't know. Yeah, full disclosure in this conversation, I have not seen either of the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I would just, I was fully in the realm of why the fuck would I care about this? It's the same thing with this new Moana movie. You're coming 10 years after the original, like, it's not the original anything really, but like you're coming 10 years after a movie that's doing the same thing. So what's my impetus to go to this movie? And I just never caught up with it.
It was
part 2 worse?
yes.
You're so much worse.
Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man movies, they're an early forerunner of that kind of this weird sort of corporate doublethink that dominates a lot of franchise movies these days, where like we're simultaneously drawing on nostalgia for things that we grew up with and also trying to act like they never happened. Where like we sort of have to hold these two things in our heads simultaneously, and it's very it's destroying us, and it needs to stop.
And I think a big part of the problem is not only was this only 10 years after they'd done the origin story, but because of that contract with Marvel, there's only a 5-year gap between Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And nobody was like, yes, we need a whole new Spider-Man.
Yeah,
They were either, where's Toby? Or, Spider-Man 3 sucked. Why are we doing this again?
Yeah.
We needed time to miss him.
Exactly.
And there will not be enough time in the universe for me to miss Dane DeHaan as Harry Osborn.
Oh, Lord.
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
The second movie is a mess. That movie does not know what it's trying to do, other than the only thing it's aware that it's trying to do is set up a bunch of other movies that never happened. It had no idea how to tell its own story.
Yeah, my favorite legacy of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is Jamie Foxx showing up in No Way Home, and the character sort of offhandedly mentioning that he got jacked and got his teeth fixed because everyone was incredibly embarrassed by the way he looked in that movie. Yeah, God, it is just absolutely, like words kind of fail. It's Drek.
Well,
yeah, it is. It's just. There is so much talent involved in that movie, and none of them are given anything to work with.
You're Jamie Foxx coming off of Django Unchained to this?
Yeah, Jamie Foxx was a red-hot star, both box office and critically. He wasn't that far removed from being nominated for 2 Oscars and all that. Or did he get this? I can't remember if he got both nominations. But anyway, he'd done Collateral not that long ago. He had just done Django. The version of Electro they give him. Look, if you want to change the character completely from the comics, that's fine. But if you're going to do it, could you at least make it as good or better and not significantly worse? Because Electro's a really simple villain. He was a power line worker who got electrocuted and instead of dying, somehow got superpowers. Because comic books.
Yeah, because they were trying to lay the groundwork for the Sinister Six, as I understand it.
People sure love to try that.
Yeah, so we get like this menagerie of just utterly goofy motherfuckers just in reporting this 140 minutes.
Sony's cinematic universe of Marvel movies.
Yeah, just Paul Giamatti showing up in like a robot.
Actually, that might be the best scene in the movie is the little kids trying to stand up to Rhino.
Oh, God.
and then Spider-Man finally showing up. And that's not because that's a great scene. It's just it's a movie that's very much good scenes are in short supply.
So I'm trying to think back of, obviously we got another really quick turnaround. We get a new Spider-Man just 2 years after this movie comes out, because Tom Holland shows up in Captain America: Civil War in 2016.
Oh, right.
I was trying to think back about how people felt about getting a new Spider-Man at that time. I feel like we had the same conversations, but I also feel like people were more welcoming of the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Because I think because the Amazing Spider-Man movies were so lukewarmly received at best, and because people were like, "Ooh, he's in the MCU now. He's finally home." I think those two things gave Tom Holland's Spider-Man a much softer landing as the new guy on the block.
And it has been 10 years since the last good Spider-Man movie at this point. It's been more than a decade, so maybe that kind of helps a little bit. I don't know.
Well, and Tom Holland is instantly endearing as Peter Parker. I think he is tremendously well cast. I don't like his movies even remotely to the degree of the Raimi films, but I think Holland, from the moment he shows up, he's just got that golly gee whiz energy that draws kids into the theater, into identifying with him in a big way, into feeling like one of the most human parts of one of the most mediocre Marvel movies at the time.
Yeah.
And really,
wait, which one are you calling the most mediocre?
Civil War.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right.
Fine.
That was the one, right? That he showed up in for the first
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Sorry, that's the first one. I wasn't sure if you were talking about that one or his first.
No. I think Homecoming's better than Civil War. I'll give it that. If we're ready to move on to Homecoming, it'd be more about.
Well, I want to say one thing about Civil War, just because one of my favorite silly memes I've ever seen came out of Civil War. It was a fake Daily Bugle front page that was like, Spider-Menace steals elderly World War II veterans' property, with the picture of him taking Captain America's shield. So
Classic
much.
Bugle.
And the fact that the meme is what I like the most about that movie says a lot about that movie. Of course, I also hated the comic.
But yeah, just to jump off what you were saying, Caleb, I think Tom Holland, he endears himself to me in a couple of ways. For one, he's the first iteration of the character we've really seen who looks age appropriate.
Yes,
I think Tom Holland was actually a teenager when he got started in the role, although he has one of these faces where he's just going to look like 19 for the rest of his days.
Still looks age appropriate.
Yeah, so he's got that going for him. And I think it was actually Kevin Smith who brought this up, and it sort of struck me ever since I heard him say this. He's the first of the actors in the major films who really has a New York accent. He's really doing a sort of Queen's dialect, which I guess that does sort of make him. I don't know. I'm not really up on my New York accents, but
well, Garfield kind of did a Brooklyn accent, which is sort of weird for a character from Queens, but.
Yeah, I don't know, but like you say, he does have that sort of he's the sort of baby of the group, and the fact that he's being introduced into the sort of ongoing MCU plot lines, where they make all the jokes about him being basically Tony Stark's understudy, and I get that that's sort of an interpretation that rubs some people the wrong way. I don't know, I kind of like that they're doing their own thing, and it does make it feel discreet from the Raimi films, and they're not just sort of doing another cover version, and I'll put my hat into the ring. I actually like Homecoming quite a bit. Not a patch on the Raimi films, but it's probably in my upper third of the MCU films that I've seen.
Continuing from the first two Raimi films in one important way, Michael Keaton is fucking great.
Yeah, one of the best villains.
He is intimidating as hell. He's relatable while still being evil. It is such a great performance.
It's such a great reveal. It's when that sort of mid-second act twist where he shows up at MJ's house and he opens the door. That's a really well-handled script beat. I thought that was genuinely clever. Caught me out.
Yeah, and that scene in the car when he wants to have a little man talk with Peter, and just immediately there's no playing around. I know you're Spider-Man. I'm gonna kill you.
And
And he's just so good in that scene.
It is, and that character also kind of typifies what the script is doing, which is kind of like having comic book stakes, but also having a lot of high school level. You're a teenager dealing with teenage things stakes, and I think that movie specifically blends it very well in a way that a lot of the Spider-Man movies kind of don't.
Yeah,
It's the first time we.
That's the stuff I love most about this movie. Everything
really-
we just mentioned and all the teenage stakes. And I am one of those people who finds that he is Iron Man Jr. to be the derailing feature of the MCU Spider-Man movies that completely take us away from the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man thing that I think Tom Holland is actually great at. Like, I love him being with the other kids. I love it being about his neighborhood. I love the stakes with him and the Vulture. And I don't mind so much. Well, I kind of do, the Tony Stark tech in this movie. But the fact that by the next one, he is basically Iron Man, and all his plots become Iron Man plots going forward until Marvel is forced to reset all of that so he can be small scale again. Like, I think that mistake starts right from here in Homecoming for me, and absorbs the parts of the films that I don't enjoy, like him. Like, I mean, they're okay, him messing with the new suit and the robot stuff and everything, but like, I don't want Spider-Man's powers to come from as much, I said it was fun that he had a giant mecha in the Japanese one. I don't want him to be Iron Man in that way. We already have Iron Man. I like him to be scrappy and figuring out his powers and all that without an AI in his head telling him everything all the time. And I don't know, that's all the stuff that kind of grates on me in this one a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's legitimate.
Yeah, this to Brennan's point though, this is the first one that really focuses on him being a high schooler.
Exactly.
Like the first Raimi movie, he finishes high school at like the end of the first act, essentially, beginning of the second act. Like Uncle Ben dies, he graduates. It's pretty much boom, boom. And I can't even remember if the Garfield movie finished high school in the first one or the second one. It's been too long since I watched them. But the high school scenes pretty much only existed around him and Gwen in those. This one is the first one that, and it takes some stuff from Brian Michael Bendis's later Ultimate Spider-Man run, where it takes some things very much from the Miles Morales comics, particularly the way Ned is in this movie. He's not Ned from the comic books at all. He's Gonk from Miles Morales' roommate at the charter boarding school he goes to.
Yeah, I do like the inclusion of Jacob Batalon in the new series. Like, he's quite he's charming as like a sort of sidekick, best friend kind of character, a Jimmy Olsen adjacent sort of.
The guy in the chair. Yeah. No, I think it's great. Gank is a great character in the comics, but Brian Michael Bendis wrote Ultimate Spider-Man for 12 years or something like that. And it was a continuity restart, separate universe Spider-Man book that went back to Peter being a teenager. And some of the Raimi stuff is similar to it. Like putting MJ and him as high school classmates instead of her being somebody he met when he was in college. Things like that come from Ultimate Spider-Man and not the mainstream Spider-Man comics. And then he eventually, because the Ultimate Universe, you could do whatever you wanted, they killed Peter Parker and replaced him with Miles Morales, who I think we'll talk about in a little while here. But I think Homecoming is good, despite there being things that bother me, mostly the over-reliance on Tony Stark.
Yeah, it's definitely a good movie.
But that then brings us to Far From Home, which I hated.
I think Far From Home kind of made a lash for its own back, just the fact that it was coming immediately after Endgame, and kind of the fact that it was announced kind of invalidated the stakes of Endgame. So a lot of people were going into it with
but it doesn't. It's like Tony Stark is dead, and some other movies still all about Tony Stark.
And Nick Fury and everything else that comes along with them.
And then there's the really funny part where that movie is all about, the big reveal thing is all about, you're so dumb, you think there's alternate universes? More than one reality?
Oops.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's...
I
forgot
really
about
that completely.
I do not think Far From Home Yeah,
Like,
no, that's
Yeah,
the whole
yeah,
thing. Is he's
Mysterio.
pretending Mysterio's pretending he's from a different dimension, alternate Earth, and it's like the end is like you are dumb enough to
Yeah,
believe.
what do we think of Jake Gyllenhaal in this role? I kind of lean towards liking his Mysterio.
I like Jake Gyllenhaal. The movie the movie as a whole kind of glanced off me. I don't really have strong feelings about Far From Home. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is sort of the memorable part of it. Like he's bringing a bit of anarchic energy to his performance that I appreciated.
Yeah, which he does tend to do, and
I think he's fine in it. I think he's good in it. I just the movie just did not work for me on almost any level.
yeah, no, I totally feel that because to me, in my memory, like I remember having a nice time because I like the Marvel movies the best when they're just kind of telling me jokes and I get to ignore the plot. And I thought that I found the movie totally like a kind of a charming throwaway movie that somehow made $1 billion because that was just the backdraft from Endgame.
Yeah, I will say,
which I guess we didn't mention at all. I was just going to say we didn't really mention other than just saying the title, but Spider-Man is of course in both Infinity War and Endgame.
That the scene where he gets snapped by Thanos is like for me the most emotional moment of Infinity War.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of the snap scenes tend to work pretty well in that movie. I think the one that hits me the most is Rocket's reaction to "I am Groot."
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
I thought Infinity War and Endgame are they're big bloated messes that mostly work.
I was the Grinch sitting there.
And Spider-Man's just a minor cog.
Yeah, I was the Grinch sitting there being the moment they're killing them off. I'm like, well, none of this matters. It'll be reversed for the next movie. They'll all be back. There's no real stakes to this. It's like, come on, let's move on. And then the movie ends.
I read Infinity Gauntlet in 1991 or whatever when it came out. So I had been waiting for Thanos to snap his finger and kill half the people in the universe since the line to challenge them is court. Oh, it's going to be Thanos! As soon as he said to court, I knew the next word was death, and I knew Thanos was going to turn around. So I've been like, yeah, he's going to snap his finger eventually. Half the universe
Which would be
die.
a devastating and powerful and bold place to take the movies if I had believed for 1 second they had the commitment to make it real and to stick with it. Like, I think
they left like 2 people dead.
Yeah, I guess like that. And I think I wound up liking Endgame. I liked Endgame a lot more in general, I think, because it wasn't like weighed down by the expectation of Endgame coming and can just be about the aftermath of that, and then the trek, the weird Back to the Future to bring everyone back. But Spider-Man's barely in that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
forget.
Yeah, he doesn't because he dies he's blipped away.
Yeah, he just shows up as one of the. He doesn't
show up until the big battle.
He's just one of the horde at the end. He's not really integral to the proceedings.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's there for the Avengers Assemble scene. That is, nerd nirvana, but just a big giant action scene of CGI blobs.
Yeah, wouldn't it be so nice if that didn't take place on like a molten lava cake? Like it's just everything is so brown in that sequence.
It's just like that's.
I don't understand what happened to colors in movies.
Yeah, that's so many big third act climaxes, isn't it? Just like everyone assembles in a rock quarry. But
yeah, so annoying.
At least it wasn't a big blue light.
That's true.
Blue is a color.
That is true.
Anyway, but yeah, sorry, we're running a little long, so let's. I think we should move on to wrapping up Tom Holland by talking about No Way Home and maybe looking forward at Brand New Day a little bit. No Way Home is obviously the one that brings back basically all the major villains from the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire continuities, because guess what? Andrew Garfield happened long enough ago that we have nostalgia for it now, allegedly.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's really good.
Yeah, he's really good in this.
It's his best performance as Spider-Man.
Peter Parker, yeah. And
I do agree. And
if you watch
it retroactively justifies the second one.
Yeah, if you watch the scene where he appears out of the portal now, it's really weirdly timed. Like the pacing is all off because he shows up and he's just sort of standing there, just sort of hanging around for like a couple of seconds of dead air, and you realize, oh, they left that in the edit so that people could applaud in theaters because that's the reaction that it would always get. Like it's essentially a laugh. It's like for a laugh track. And I don't know. That kind of encapsulates what I find so off-putting about a lot of No Way Home, which I did go to theaters for. It was one of the first MCU films I'd seen in theaters since Endgame, I think. And I don't know. I feel like I kind of got duped, like by this very. I don't know. It feels like a very cynical exercise in IP, like wrangling to me.
Oh
I know
yeah.
that some people really loved it, but
I Oh, it
yeah,
absolutely is.
it didn't do anything for me, unfortunately.
I'll say this. It is absolutely a cynical IP play. I'm nostalgia. That happened to be for something I had a lot of nostalgia
Hmm.
for,
Fair.
particularly Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe coming back.
Mhm.
Much more so than Tobey Maguire and Andrew
Oh,
Garfield.
interesting. Yeah.
Getting Molina and
I was
Dafoe
the
back
opposite on that.
is what actually excited me on it. And I don't think it's a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the nostalgia plays mostly work in it. Tobey Maguire's a little rough. You can tell he really hadn't
Hmm.
acted much in
Hmm.
recent years
He's kind of half asleep too.
and hadn't played that character by that point in, I don't
Like
remember
14
exactly
years,
what
I
year that
think.
came out, but like 15-ish years.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
I guess for me, a lot of what I have nostalgia for around, Doctor Octopus and the Green Goblin is that sort of tragic arc, like the I will not die a monster of it all. And I feel like, just suspending them in
yeah.
this sort of multi-dimensional like immortality, like I don't know, I feel like that just kind of defangs everything that made those
Yeah, yeah.
characters, gave them pathos in the first place.
That's a fair point. That is definitely a fair point, and that is Molina's moment
Mm-hmm.
on that in Spider-Man 2 is so good with that
I agree
line.
100%. And I think
But
this is a bad, cynical movie that should not exist. And I'm mad that it worked on me in these scenes and got me like tearing up at various points. Like that angers me that I'm so susceptible to the nostalgia strings that this thing is tugging on here. Uh, and left the theaters having enjoyed my time with this, cynical
Oh
cash
man.
grab.
well, look on the bright side. You're not alone. The movie made like all of
I
the
think
money.
it's something like the sixth top grossing film ever still, like
Yeah,
worldwide.
something like that.
Almost
Yeah,
2 billion. Yeah. Wow.
I yeah, I think it's the highest grossing solo
Mm.
superhero movie ever.
Surpassed only by the Avengers is.
I mean, yeah, like if you want to call it solo when it does have three Spider-Men,
And Doctor
Yeah, but
Strange.
no,
but
yes,
but not it's not a team movie though. Is my point.
yeah.
It's not the Avengers, or well, the Avengers are the only ones who make that kind of money, and we'll see if they still do later this
We
year.
sure will.
But
But yeah, no, I totally agree. It is a cynical cash grab, but also like I don't know. I'm not immune to cameos. It's fun to see characters you like show up, even though like you have to treat it like candy. It's like this is not good for me. I need to take it in small doses.
I know.
Sure.
and
Sure.
yeah, we are definitely running long. But before we talk about Brand New Day, we have to at least touch on the two
Oh, 100%,
Spider-Verse
yes.
movies because
I was gonna circle
oh
around
my
to those
God.
after Brand New Day.
Oh, you
That
want to
was
do
my
Brand New Day
plan.
first?
But let's just
Okay,
do the
well, we can do
Spider-Verse.
that
We're
one,
here.
yeah.
We're here.
Yeah, it's like for whatever did and didn't work with No Way Home. Boy, is there a better way to do multiversal storytelling than with Spider-Man? It's called Spider-Man Into the
Oh yeah.
Spider-Verse.
Yeah, and
It is. Those might be my two favorite superhero comic book adaptation movies of all time. They also are two of my probably 10, maybe five favorite animated films of all time. I think they are gorgeous. I think they are fun. I can't wait for the third one that keeps getting pushed back another year or so every time I check.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mostly agree. I mean, I agree aesthetically completely 100%. Into the Spider-Verse is spectacular. Across the Spider-Verse is perhaps even more beautiful to look at. And Into the Spider-Verse was such a neutron bomb. It like completely changed certainly what Sony is doing with their animation. Their new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie and the Puss in Boots movie. Basically everything they're doing is like, can we get another Spider-Verse onto the screen?
Yeah. Like, what they're even gonna
yeah.
attempt with Beyond the Spider-Verse that's gonna like push the envelope beyond what the last one did. I don't know, the mind boggles at what that could possibly look like. I know this is alternate ending, of course, and we're sort of like we are generally a MCU hostile and pro animation sort of community. I'm probably not quite as high on these films as a lot of our friends are. I still love them a lot to look at. They're just aesthetically just kind of eye-popping.
Yeah, I was gonna say similar thing. I really like Into the Spider-Verse, but I think Across the Spider-Verse is very messy as a story.
Yeah.
But it is. I do think it's gorgeous, so I still had a
It's
great time.
extremely conspicuously a
There's
part
a-
one.
Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely
In-
is. There's a moment though in that movie, the second Across the Spider-Verse, where Miles and Spider-Gwen are hanging upside down off some building or another, and you see the New York skyline that I think might be my favorite bit of CGI animation I have ever seen. I literally had to pick my, well, literally is not the right word, never pick my jaw back up after that scene came on the screen in the theater. I, at that point, there was almost nothing that movie could have done that was going to prevent it from getting 5 stars from
Both
me.
movies.
Shy of, I don't know,
Like,
like
The-
eviscerating Miles Morales on
I mean,
screen.
there's not an instance of CG animation that I can think of to counter that point, to be honest. Yeah.
The skylines in both movies, the
It's-
vertical things they do, like the scene in the first one, the "What's Up Danger," where he's leaping off the towers down into
yeah.
the upside down plunge into the streets of New York. Like, there's something about their understanding of those vistas and the skybound and earth plunging nature of Spider-Man that just kind of defines the motion of these movies in that way. That you would think that would be something you'd see. That would not be new to say in animation. Oh, like you can do all the verticality you want, but you feel the scale and you feel the plunge in these, like the way that the art style is constantly inviting you to be broken into the panel, into the scene, to feel three-dimensional, whether you're seeing it in 3D or not. It's like Into the Spider-Verse for me in theaters. This was like one of those movies that hit the way Mad Max Fury Road did, and feeling like, oh, we're watching. This is one of those redefinition points, just the pure raw excitement of cinema, some of artists just completely enamored with the form and finding new ways using the same tools to show you something you haven't seen quite in this way before, and to just be endlessly exciting the whole time while you're watching it. Like, there's not one boring moment in the first one, maybe not even in the second, but like just nonstop, visually stunning. The jokes are a mile a minute. That the humor is so successful. It's, I mean, the original Spider-Man 2002 might still have my heart ultimately, but I think Into the Spider-Verse is the most perfect Spider-Man film, despite being so wildly unusual for like classic Spider-Man and redefining all these things, while Miles still manages to feel like such a true Spider-Man and everything that you want in the character, even in all the ways he's different from Peter Parker. It's it's a tour de force.
Absolutely. I mean, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead, because I'm trying to look something up real
sure.
quick too.
I
So
was just going to say,
go ahead.
regretfully, I didn't see Into the Spider-Verse in theaters. I did see Across the Spider-Verse, and I got a lot of the same effect that you were describing, Caleb. Yeah, for me, like the first two Raimi films are sort of my go-to. I can't really refute anything about the just the way that these movies kind of pushed the envelope for animation, sort of started introducing these elements of abstraction in animated CG, and that we hadn't really seen in sort of studio movies for a long time, where the push for decades had been to sort of greater and greater like strata of photorealism. And this sort of the things that they're doing with like variable frame rates,
Oh yeah.
with color and shape and just texture, and playing on just these incredible eye-popping colors. So yeah, just the sort of the sheer technique and the sheer creativity on display through pretty much every shot in that movie it's kind of mind-boggling. I wish it matched my sensibilities more than it does. I guess is the only thing. It's kind of a me problem. Like I almost find it overstimulating is my thing
It's
when I watch it.
hyper-stimulating.
And yeah,
for sure.
it's very
And-
caffeinated.
I certainly think that a lot
I
of
can't say that's a bad. complaint. It's definitely stimulating. But what I wanted to specifically call out the sequences in Across the Spider-Verse that take place in Spider-Gwen's
Hmm.
universe
Oh,
that are
yes.
modeled after the cover art done for the Ghost Spider books by Robbie Rodriguez, that are some of the most psychedelic and interesting scenes, maybe in the history of mainstream big studio American animation.
Yeah, yeah, I
That
can
is a
see that.
strong claim,
Like,
but you're
there's
probably right.
nothing else that looks like those
Hmm.
scenes.
Those are the scenes that I
I don't
think
think
about when I think about that movie.
Hmm.
Yeah, that movie is. And I like the story. The first one's definitely got the better script. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. But both of them, I can't. It's eye candy. Actually, it might be eye hard drugs.
Ha.
I love those two movies so
What a
much.
character
I hope the
ensemble.
third one eventually finds its way
Yeah.
through
Like
here.
the version of Kingpin we get here, the version of Aunt May, the version of Doctor Octopus is it Octavia? I mean, what a like the whole theater was just overjoyed at that scene, the reveal of who she is.
Plus all the different Spider-Man. You know, you've got the Spider-Punk, you got Spider-Man 2099,
Yeah,
they dug Spider-Ham out of
They got,
mothballs.
and the
Um,
Prowler, Mahershala
Spider-Noir.
Ali is like what a good version of like the Spider-Man tragic family member plot in here. Like the relationship between the two
Yeah.
of them feels
Which
real earned.
they teased that in like Homecoming. That character is in Spider-Man Homecoming, played by why am I drawing a blank on the name of a very, very
Is
famous
it
actor? Donald Glover.
yeah.
Oh, I forgot about
Oh,
that.
that is the same. That he mentioned something about how when they're selling the weapons about my nephew's on these streets. That is a reference to Miles Morales. That hasn't been paid off at
Ah.
all, but yeah, you get the Spider-Man Noir has become so popular he's getting his own Amazon TV
It's
show
apparently pretty good, from what I've heard.
with Nick Cage.
Yeah, I've heard good
Yeah,
things.
that's
I should really
Yeah,
bananas.
I'm hoping. I haven't seen it, but I didn't realize it was out. I
Yes,
should
it is out
catch
now.
up on that at some point.
But yes, let's look ahead at Brand New Day a little bit. I mean, you've heard from me and Caleb on this topic in the July preview episode. Caleb, if you have anything you want to add, please feel free. But let's hear it from Andrew and Brian. What are you feeling about this new Tom Holland Spider-Man?
So I listened to the preview episode you guys did, so I can't really disagree. Like I've seen the trailers in front of every movie I've been to for the last 2 months, and I'm still trying to figure out what the hook is. Like it feels like so we've got Scorpion, so okay, we've got another B-lister in there. We've got some sort of shockwave hitting the city. That's I don't know, like seems to be some sort of psychic mind control doohickey. We've got the Punisher showing up in a PG-13 rated movie, so that's bound to be stimulating. I don't know. There's nothing here that's particularly grabbing my attention. I like seeing Tom Holland and I like seeing Zendaya together. I think they've got good chemistry. But are they the second real life married couple to have played the romantic leads in Spider-Man movies?
I don't think I don't think Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield were married, nor do I think Tom Holland and Zendaya
Not
are
married
actually
couple, but they
married,
were a
but they're
couple,
definitely
yeah,
romantic
yeah.
couple. Like, yes, they're the second
But they're
one.
engaged now, right? That's the current state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
yeah,
there was a rumor a couple months ago that they got married, but I don't think it actually happened.
But it does pop off the screen. But beyond that, I can't say. I mean, I've missed the last few MCU movies anyway, so I can't say that this one's gonna win me back necessarily. It's neat unless the word of mouth is like stratospheric.
Brian?
Okay. So Brand New Day, the title comes from a line of Spider-Man that was a soft reboot of the character more than a decade ago now, I think. That came after he sold his soul to the devil. Well, okay, not his soul, just his
Again,
marriage.
okay.
Which is maybe my least favorite story ever published by either of the two major comic publishers. where Spider-Man and Mary Jane gave their marriage to the devil. I just have to keep repeating it because it still doesn't seem real after all these years that somebody thought that was a good idea.
I did not anticipate talking about the devil more than once during this podcast.
Maybe that's how he became an emissary from hell. I don't know. But the thing is it's coming from the same place that line was. One of the main things that the story before it, One More Day, that had the deal with Mephisto and all that in it, was about putting his secret identity, stuffing the genie back in the bottle, the cat back in the bag, whatever metaphor you like, the toothpaste back into the tube. And it served as a reboot where Peter was no longer married, he was single. So you can definitely see, even if the story isn't going to be particularly similar, this is definitely using the name for a reason, Brand New Day. And since that's the era where I decided I was never reading Spider-Man comics again, I'm less optimistic than I wish I was. But also, I have seen every single Spider-Man movie released in theaters so far. And I don't know that I can not go see this one. But I'm not looking forward to it at all. Yeah, it's like I went and saw The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in theaters. This can't be any worse.
Probably not. There's too much MCU baseline quality control.
Like that's definitely slipping these days, but it seems totally fine. I just don't know if I get it. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it. For Spider-Man, we've been talking for quite a while.
Ooh, wow, we have.
But yes, where can people find you all out on the internet? What do you want to point them to? Brian, let's start with you.
Basically just follow me on Letterboxd, Farwell3D.
Great. What about you, Caleb?
On Letterboxd and Blue Sky at Caleb Wimble, and find my games at sojournrpg.com.
Hell yeah. What about you, Andrew?
You can find me on Letterboxd. That's probably my most active sort of social media presence. So I'm there as A.N. Milne or Thrash, depending on how you're searching. I'm never quite sure how the search function works on that site.
Yeah, Letterboxd is confusing with that. You can also find me on Letterboxd, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, at It's Raining Brens. Find more episodes of this show and others at alternateending.com. I totally am blanking on what the next week... Oh, next week on the show, you're going to be hearing from me and Tim. We're talking about our first 1980s slasher on Bride of Alternate Ending. The Patreons voted for us to talk about Pieces, which is going to be a wild ride. But until next time, bye!